I've been pretty.
Hey, how are you? Good.
Years, and I've had pretty decent commissioners. I hear some of the other counties.
Water works for Pacific Power,
Go on
and the reason I can't, I
Yeah.
can give you some details, but talk about the,
Yeah.
some,
But then
what you guys.
Unfortunate to date.
Tribal liaison
I think
for Pacific Power.
I know
Anytime they
community
involve-
development in particular just gets beat up, but that's part of the job.
That's it, yeah.
But you get some counties where even public works becomes a hot topic because they use the road department to curry favors. And it's like, well, that's not really what a lot of things from the directors. This isn't. How do you guys deal with that? Like, unfortunately, I don't have to.
That's good.
Yeah. Got projects, but that you see that in Congress all the way.
Not for major.
I think so. I've been wanting to do it for years, and it is a good show. This year was especially this year. I've forgotten some of the things that we had done this year, and then I'm saying internally, yeah, yeah,
So you're gonna be running slides
pretty fast,
fast,
right?
so I won't be able to go back and forth from you to this.
You don't want to do it anyways. Break the camera.
I get you when you're.
I'll break the camera. Actually, I did break the camera. So I think it was first or second grade. We did the class photos, and they're taking all the individual shots, and they got to me, the camera broke. So I can.
So you have a history of breaking the camera. So we should take you seriously when you say that. Yeah.
Be careful.
Of course, you see all the film and the high-end quality cameras. And I broke it. They had to reschedule.
See you everywhere.
I know, yeah. I hope I looked okay on camera.
You what?
I said, I hope I looked okay on camera.
Oh, of course.
Oh, good.
Yes, he's got a concern, but he has a 10 o'clock. I don't know when. First one about the.
You're not saying we should get him in before 10?
No,
Yeah, we can
he's
do that
he's gonna be on tap.
Turn this one off.
Whenever you finish his meeting. Excuse me. So it's with
I have plenty of pens.
I brought a spare pen, so I would be covered.
Jane, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Deb, are you ready? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 20th, 2024, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to our website or to tctvonline.com. Click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your phone and unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room or registered online for public comment? Oh, please, yeah, please sign in. Okay. And Deb, anyone online? No, we do not. Okay, all right. Well, I'd like to welcome everyone, ask all our guests to sign in. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll take public comment. Commissioner Olson, will you lead us?
I will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. April, I welcome you up.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Please state your name and your area of residence.
Yes, ma'am. I'm April Bailey from Nescoin, and that's why I'm a little breathless. Apparently, we're in tourist season and farm season. So good morning. I am coming to speak to you about your letter that you're considering in support of the Pacific Corp grant, which is related to TPUD. As my emails indicated, my concern is, with a lot of these grants, is how it ties us to future policies. Excuse me. This grant actually pays for Pacific Corp to buy a diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility program to train their upper employees, and also to ensure that they have less diverse turnover versus, like, say, regular turnover, which is fine unless this goes into diversity over competency, because none of us care what color our poll guys are. We do very much care if they're competent. This is becoming an issue in the airlines. We've all heard the stories, so that's a huge concern. The other concern I had after reviewing the grant and looking into it is, it was interesting because the Economic Development Council was asked to sign on to this, and their Economic Development Council grants through the same program. And one of their purposes right on their fact sheet is to expand endangered species habitat. We are all very concerned about that for our local economies. I know you are all, and that is very dangerous to our county for economic freedom, for growth, for tax purposes. So I have concern with that. The other concerns, I obviously understand that infrastructure is important. I don't know how much this is necessary, but the other concerns would be, how does this affect our future in policy making? Again, I don't think any of us have a problem with actual diversity if that's the issue, but that should not be the goal of any grant or policy per se over the flourishing of our community. And so I just like to ask you to reconsider, well, to not sign this grant and not to tie yourself to those things. I have no idea, and I'm not really sure you do, what the complete fallout will be if we continue to sign on to these grants. And I'll make one last point. I believe a lot of these things are going to be proven to be unconstitutional in the end because they will violate the Civil Rights Act. And we don't need accessibility because we already had the Disability Act. So I don't think it's necessary, and I do believe it could get each entity and county in trouble in the end with lawsuits from possible employees or other entities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on in the agenda. We're starting off with a presentation and report from Tillamook County Public Works Department about the fiscal year 23-24, and this is our year in review with Chris Leidy, the Director of Public Works. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is really a fast slideshow. It is really picture-based. So 156 slides, 2 minutes a slide. So we'll see how fast we can get through here. I know we may potentially lag through here, so if that's the case, we'll modify this. It's amazing. I've been meaning to do a year in review for a number of years. As I was putting the budget together, I started to see that, you know, this is worthy of its own independent slideshow. And sure enough, right off the get-go. Okay, so we started off Derrick's Road. We received a grant from the Forest Service to finish off the last of the Derrick's Road paving, and this accesses into the back end of the Sand Lake Dispersed Campground. Forest Service was at threat of not actually being able to have garbage service because the road was in such a bad condition that the garbage truck couldn't get through there. Moved on to Munson Creek road paving. This goes up to the falls. This has been on the to-do list for a lot of years. You can see the condition of the pavement. We had, in a couple of years back, replaced a lot of the culverts in order to prep ourselves for future paving. You can see the paving operation as we went through here. So I know this is rapid fire. Again, 156 slides, 2 minutes a slide. We're trying to shrink that down a little bit. Sand Lake road paving. Last fall, we had ground the road down 1.5 inches. We cut drainage slots out there to make sure it didn't pond. We came through, in this case, we hired on contract flaggers so that we could keep our trucks moving fairly quickly through here. So significant paving effort on the Sand Lake Road. Turned out really nice. Unfortunately, people drive way too fast. We have major roads. We have some small farming roads. And this is one of those where it's just a small road, but it gets severely beat up with farming traffic. So this is one of the worst roads that we had in the county at that time. We ended up, there's a lot of roads out there in the county, and we very conscious of what we do. We looked at a wide variety of things that we go through in our determination of paving. One of the big things is when we run these trucks, we run overloaded trucks. We have a permit to run overloaded. Normal dump trucks hold 12 tons of material. Our trucks haul 16 tons of material under a special permit. All those loads going through our driveway onto the adjacent road system really beats that up. So we needed to get through and do some improvements, just simply because we severely damage the road, much more so than cars. So the rate deterioration is significant. Mechanic shop, we'll get into that. We put some concrete out into the front of this mechanic shop. That opened up the space for putting chains on, for all kinds of different things. We do contract, these are the tubs for striping. Striping is a significant component of our budget. We do a lot of maintenance stop signs. We have 7,000 stop signs in the county, or 7,000 signs in the county. A lot of them are stop signs. People tend to hit stop signs, so we're constantly going out and replacing those. We have a bucket truck. This allows us to get up there and do a lot of tree pruning. The tree pruning opens up and lets sunlight into the roads, which became important over this last winter because of the ice that we had. We have 3 mechanics that work on our fleet. We have over 100 different vehicles that we work on. What you see there is a asphalt. It's a unipatcher. Allows us to put material on the ground. So this will allow us to help work on potholes a little faster. Interesting thing about this one, this is also used equipment. This is a detachable piece of equipment that we'll see where we modified some other material. You can see Nicole Baldwin, potholes come up. Some of our roads are actually asphalt over concrete. So we not only buy new vehicles, not only do we cannibalize old vehicles, we will actually convert older vehicles. So this is a situation where we acquired a South Fork camp truck, took the cab, or took the trailer off of it, took the cab. The picture on the left is a similar vehicle. It's not the same one. The one that we, Frankenstein, we purchased a used truck from South Fork camp, kept the truck itself, the cab, took the back off, and that is now our tack truck. So this tack is the spray that goes down before asphalt. It's basically our glue. So the tack truck vehicle, that cab, got converted into a de-icer truck. So on the back of that vehicle there actually originated as a PUD bucket truck. We purchased it used. It became our tack truck. That tack truck is now our de-icer, which turned out to be very important. That de-icer vehicle gets removed, and we can put in the asphalt patcher onto that. So it's a Frankenstein piece of equipment, cannibalizing other pieces. The tanks on the right of the screen, those are free to us from the city of Gresham. Those hold the de-icer. Last year, which was actually pretty fortunate this year, we were able to get out and deploy quite a bit. That's 10,000 gallons of de-icer, magnesium chloride that you see there. I do a lot of work that is out there. This was actually May, so it's coming up. The city of Tillamook puts on a Touch a Truck event. This is 2023, May of 23. Bring in our future employees. You see the gentleman that is in the roller, so kind of gives a good appearance for size of some of our equipment. And reaching out to the local community, some members of our staff. One thing that we do is solid waste hazard. So on Tillamook River Road, there was an encampment there. Our mechanics actually went out there and did the cleanup on that. We also cleaned up a sizable garbage area encampment on Sand Lake Road. So that was a fairly significant issue. We get a lot of flooding out there. Oftentimes a culvert becomes plugged. All of this came out of one culvert in Bayside Gardens. So you're seeing multiple things that came out of there. Basketballs we pull a lot of basketball out of culverts, surprisingly. I had actually forgot about this one. It was such a busy year. So Sand Lake Road Culvert, really appreciate the people when they do drones. This is a unnamed stream. It's actually it actually is a Coho stream. We are collaborative with Salmon Superhighway. They're going to be doing a presentation coming up. They'll get a little bit more detailed into financials on some of the bigger projects that we'll see. So Sand Lake Road had a undercut. It's 20 feet deep, so that rod there is 20 feet tall. Kind of get a sense of perspective. We identified that and said, yeah, that's not going to really work too well. So we ended up contracting out and started excavating down to remove the old culvert and put a new culvert in. Built the road back up under a emergency operation, and then opened it up. So we do a lot of collaborative work. The public dollar only goes so far. A lot of problems out there. If it was only public dollar, we would not actually be able to do. Other priorities pop up. So we work with businesses. We work with private homeowners. Pearl Street was a problem with drainage. Homeowner was doing some work that was in conflict with our drainage. Our drainage had a problem. So we purchased the materials. The homeowner hired a contractor. We had oversight on that, and we solved three issues in one fell swoop. Their issue, the road issue, and then subsequently, as we worked with the adjacent landowners, they built a staircase down to the beach. Don't have a good photos of that one. Salmon Superhighway, really won't get into too much of this, and Sampson Creek coming up, Green and Sampson. Other than to say Green Creek about 3-4 years ago, Green Creek is located directly on Trask River Road by SE Paving. We had a big storm blow through Trask. We literally parked an excavator there 24 hours because we were really concerned we were going to lose that culvert. Fortunately, we were able to come up with money, mostly Salmon Superhighway folks, Trout Unlimited, Watershed Councils, NOAA, to help fund the replacement of this culvert with a brand new bridge. Again, Trout Unlimited, Salmon Superhighway, they'll be doing more of a formal presentation that talks a little bit in greater detail about that. Sampson Creek is located further up Trask River Road, and the two projects were done back to back. It was just the efficiency of having one bridge contractor working on two bridges. They could stage their work appropriately. So the water that is, they bypassed that stream so that it's dry when they do the work. So that actually does carry quite a bit more water than what you saw in that one picture. You see around the county where different times of the year where the streams are actually fairly small, and then it really spikes up. Huey Creek is one that we had literally closed the road. We were monitoring this culvert. It's on Fairview Road. We pulled the culvert out because we were concerned. It wintered over. We were monitoring. We felt the culvert was going to blow out. I had an easy detour going around, taking people off Fairview onto Highway 6. So we actually closed this road for over winter. This was designed in-house by county public works staff. You can see the condition of the road just continued to fall and fall. Old pipe. This is where it looked like before. This is a 14-foot multi-plate aluminum pipe. We obviously don't want corrugated steel because it rusts, so aluminum has multiple benefits. It's fairly light, it's easy to work with. You don't require hard or really large equipment to do that. This work was contracted out. A lot of counties will actually do this type of installation in-house, but our crews were spent paving. So one of the things is this particular picture, and I didn't have a good photo or didn't make it into the show, is the water level on December 5th was actually halfway up into the culvert, managed it really well. So that's pre-storm. The water was halfway up in that pipe, so that flash of water really, really spikes. And that's what it looks like. One of the biggest things that happened was Cape Mears Loop realignment. This is a project that's been ongoing for years. It had been closed many times, with the final closure occurring in February of 2016, and it had remained shut. The old alignment is an active slide. It is gated on either end, and this was designed by Federal Highway, and then construction inspection engineering was also managed by Federal Highway. Certainly as a county, we had quite a bit of input into this. This is a $22 million project, took 2 summers to complete. County paid $2.2 million as our match, which is significant. That's approximately half of a full annual operating budget. So TOT is significant for that. You can see, so I mentioned our trucks haul 16 tons. So 16 cubic yards. A cubic yard is approximately equal to a dishwasher or a washing machine. So our trucks will hold 16 washing machines in there. The truck that you're seeing there, that holds 45 tons. So 45 washing machines stacked in the backside of these trucks. These are unique off-road vehicles. You can see it here in construction. The vehicle there is Federal Highway, is the construction engineer manager for that. The new road goes across Coleman Creek. So the soil that's up there is in such poor, it's very poor material. We couldn't reuse that material. When we excavated material, we could not reuse the material. So we couldn't fill that. We used geofoam, which is essentially styrofoam. That's approximately 35 feet tall. That crosses over Coleman Creek, which is the primary drinking water source for the community of Cape Mears. This was paved last fall, contracted paving, Knife River, and then striped. The road opened up in November of last year. It has been closed 2 times. We had the ice event in January. We have 12% grades, and you can kind of see a picture there. That's not 12%, that's about 8%. So ice on a 12% road, you cannot get up. So we closed it there. And then the last snow event, we also had, we closed it. We ended up with over 6 inches of snow up there. The north side is always in shade. The sun just doesn't hit it, so melting that snow just doesn't work. Blaine Road, milepost 10.3, which is actually Upper Nestucca. This is an area where we had constant settling. It is a fish passage. It's actually a fish ladder. We'll go into that. Instead of tearing that out and replacing it, we did structural injected polyurethane which kept the water from flowing around the outside of this and kept that intact. Big Trout Bridge, there's a lot of history with this one. Again, 156 slides, so we're just rapid firing through here. The Big Trout Bridge was actually going through a design process, hit December of 22. We lost 8 feet of bank. The foundation that supports the far end in that picture went into the water. County crew scrambled on New Year's Eve and shored that up. We had a lot of concern that we were going to lose the bridge during winter. So last summer, we went through there, isolated the stream. It created these blocks. This is contracted. Installed the blocks under the rock, cabled the blocks to the rail car. It's 9 foot by 89 feet long. And that's the finished project in September of 2023. And then December of 23 hit. And lo and behold, a big tree wedged underneath that. So we did not lose the bridge, but the bridge is of significant concern. We decided to leave that tree in place. It's currently there. Representative Javity has been beating the bushes with ODOT, trying to secure some funding. ODOT is, they agree that to fund this, but they're trying to come up with a mechanism to fund it. It's the way things are written. So on the far close side, that's the work that we did. On the far side, that bridge is only sitting on about 20% of that bridge is sitting on there. So the tree is actually holding up that bridge. You can see it pretty significant undermine. Crystal Creek, December 5th or 6th, big rain event hit. This was the location of a culvert blowout that had occurred back in December of 2015. They get contracted, ODOT managed the contract to replace that culvert with a bridge. It was actually designed and awarded to HP Civil last September. Then our December event hit. We contracted under an emergency declaration with HP Civil, and we went through the process using the core design that was prepared for the new bridge replacement. Scrambled, and we were able to build this bridge in 10 days. This could be a permanent bridge. However, ODOT is going to continue to make modifications. So if you're up on Miami, you will see some work that's being done up there. That's being funded by Federal Highway. So we should get reimbursement for this type of work. So 10 days to turn around and build a permanent bridge. Had this been just ours, we would be doing the final wrap up on that. The slide, everybody's aware on Sand Lake, we lost 175 foot of, this is located south of Tierra del Mar and north of Pacific City. We lost 175 feet on Sand Lake Road. Went down, we contracted 2 contracts. One was a design build for a soil nail operation. There's 200 soil nails that are drilled into the wall or into the soil, and that is intended to stabilize the uphill lane. 30 feet down is where that stopped. Concurrent to the design of that, we also worked we didn't want to put something in with the intent that we would tear it out and have to do something. So we ran a concurrent design, which is more of a permanent solution. So you'll see a hybrid scenario here, 2 options. One, the soil nails, which are on the right, which are in the ground right now. And the future is going through how do we get that second lane up and running. So we're handing off the project to Federal Highway under an emergency declaration. And the next stage is going to commence here fairly soon. Typical Tillamook County, we like to flood a lot. These are some of the things we do. Alderbrook is a significant one. People aren't aware that a lot of trees come down. You don't see us out there, but we do see big trees that come and wedge up underneath our bridges and cause damage. So you can get a kind of a sense for the size of some of the issues that we have. Down trees throughout the county, work a lot with PUD to clear our roads. Slab Creek Road, Hobsonville Point, Meta Loop, just some examples of some of the trees that fall down. Again, PUD we work with significantly. We'll see slide material come down from these creeks. January 23 was our big ice event. We were pretty proactive going through there. I used this picture. This is December of 22, winter of 22, and this is the winter of 23. So almost the photos are taken at a very similar location, fair amount of snow there. Bay Ocean Road, this happened several times, a random county road. Last year, I just thought this was a cool picture. This is clearing Mount Hebo in order to access the radio tower. So that actually didn't occur in this fiscal year. That was the previous fiscal year. So new challenges, new fiscal year. So that was done pretty much within 12 months. Cape Mayor's taken 2 months to do. So that was a rapid fire presentation. So I will turn it back over.
Bravo. I feel like we should be giving you a standing ovation. Yes. You know, you are always outstanding at your job, but this year you have done amazing things. Tremendous successes and accomplishments in a short period of time, a lot of them unexpected, a lot of them storm response and emergency response, and bringing to fruition long-standing projects that everyone has been eagerly awaiting completion of. And I'm very, very grateful for your service, as are the residents of Tillamook County, whether or not they're even aware of this, you know, because the truth is that you do your work so well that very often residents are not aware of what's happening because it happens so quickly. So I'm full of gratitude and praise for you and your work and your team. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The paving, the storm cleanup, none of that would be possible without having good field crews. The bridges would not be possible without the relationships with the Salmon Superhighway, and we bring in more money through U.S. Fish Wildlife Service and NOAA to build our bridges than we get from ODOT. In the last 10 years, we have built 22 bridges, and typical counties might build one every 5 years. So significant. Good staff, good relationship with our partners. PUD is always fabulous to work with, as well as we're doing great work with ODOT and Federal Highway. But first and foremost, I've got a great team that I work with.
Absolutely. Commissioners?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm the liaison to this department, and I've learned a whole lot in the last few months that what you saw before you and their responses. And I think it's important to remember the county some years back, and maybe before nearly all of us, except maybe our legal counsel, who's been here most of his working life, I think. But there was a time when Public Works employed roughly 50 people. And they had their own gravel pit and some rock crushing materials or supplies and equipment. And that's come all the way down to 20. And I think your FTE count now is around, 24, 25, somewhere in there.
Correct.
And so that's half what it was years ago. And they're still doing a lot of this work. And we all, as everyone in this room knows and online, Tillamook County has extreme weather events almost annually. We lose portions of our roads. We do have beach access, and then we have mountains with snow, as you saw. And so these people have to understand the power of nature, and I think they do just a marvelous job. They don't know what it means to get a full night's sleep in the wintertime, because you go when you have to go and where you need to go. And so they have my full support, and it's amazing what they can do. And also, I've been impressed with the partnership with ODOT and Federal Highway and others. They are all on good working relationships. I've talked with some of the ODOT people, and they all get along. They all are trying to do exactly the same thing, which is keep the access open for the public and make our roads safer. So kudos to our Tillamook County team and others. I think they're right on it with a relatively tight and small budget and a lot of unknowns. For example, the price of petroleum, and which leads into asphalt. it's a roll of the dice. You just never know from one year to the next how much it's going to be, and so you plan for a certain amount, but it could easily vary by 30%. And so you do what you need to do, and if there ever was a group that said, no, that will rise to the occasion, they're sitting in front of us and all the folks who are out in the field. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I will echo what my colleagues have said. Our Public Works Department just does a huge amount of work with a very small staff to keep everybody moving. And one of my colleagues just said, most people don't even know it because they don't see it, because it's dark and it's rainy and it's nasty and things are coming apart out there and you have them put back together before people get back on the road. So you guys do an amazing job. You know, I'm continually just amazed by the fact that we have, I think you said 7,000 signs. I think there's 4,000 culverts out there, and there's somewhere over 300 miles of road. Is that right?
368.
368 miles of road. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of maintenance to contend with, as well as, you know, planning for regular emergencies. Really, and how can you have a regular emergency? But if you're Tillamook County, you can have a regular emergency. We have them every winter. And yeah, right, you have one scheduled for this week, just checking. But it's really, really phenomenal, the work that you do. And I think, you know, the TLT has been a game changer for our funding for roads, because I don't know if people realize, but the money we get for roads is not public, or is not a general fund. It's funding that comes through the registration of vehicles, it comes through gas tax, and it goes to the state, and the state runs it through their formula and sends it back to us. And a large portion of that formula is related to how many cars are registered in our county. So we start behind the curve because we have so many vacation and second homes where people don't register their vehicles. So the amount of state funding we get for our roads is already short what it really should be. And then we've really bolstered that with the transient lodging tax. So it's, you know, it's moved us from, I think, 35th in the state, meaning we had nearly the worst roads. We're now somewhere in the middle of the pack. So it's been beneficial. It's been really good. And yet, you know, we all know it's not enough. There are still potholes out there all the time. And that's just a function of our weather, our limited staff, and our limited resources. But Chris, you guys do an amazing body of work for what we have to manage and the resources with which you have to do it. So I'm exceptionally thankful to have you and all of your crew.
Thank you. Just to add a little bit of clarification, common misunderstanding with the TLT is that this is extra money, it's new money. In all reality, it's the money we receive is nowhere close to the money we used to receive from timber dollars. We, in today's dollars, would be $6 million of timber revenue from the federal forest. We don't get state. Federal timber, that $6 million is now $400,000.
Yeah.
So the TLT is helping to backfill the revenue lost from federal timber dollars. So, and even that doesn't come close. So it's not new bonus money. It's not additional money. While it is technically, it's really replacement money.
Yeah.
It doesn't come close to where it was.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I think that's really important. I think that people don't realize that we now are only able to harvest, I think it's about 20% of the federal land in Tillamook County and across the state. And that's really changed the revenue picture for our counties. And to Chris's point, the amount lost is nowhere, we've not come nowhere near replacing it. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Well, Chris, well done. Yeah.
Chair, could I add one more thing?
Please.
Something that people are not aware of is property taxes in Oregon do not go onto our roads. For many people, a number of people have contacted me and said, well, when are you going to fix this pothole in front of my house or my business? And we pay all this amount on property taxes, and sometimes they recite the amount they pay right down to the penny. And the answer is property tax monies in Oregon don't go on roads. Now, if you don't like that, I guess you can drive over to Salem and try and change it. But that's the way the funding formula works, and as we pointed out, we're getting gas taxes and motor vehicle and some federal money, very little federal money, and then the TLT, which now has become a significant provider of funding. So I think it's important that people understand that, because most people pay a fair amount in property taxes, but it doesn't really go onto the roads.
Thank you. Good clarification.
Yeah, and that's important. We're looking in the 2025 session for ODOT to be looking for a large funding package, and our funding at the state level is tied a lot to ODOT. So there will be a lot of work being done through the Association of Oregon Counties, through another group called OASIS, which is the Surveyors and Road, and I'm going to leave it at that. There's more letters I didn't explain in there, but it's surveyors and road folks. So Chris undoubtedly will be working on that, as will I, as the co-chair of Transportation and Community Development Association of Oregon Counties. Right now, they are planning a tour for the Transportation Commission at the state level. And so one of my projects yesterday was to work with Chris to identify some good local roadways that we would like them to take a look at in order to help the state understand that county roads are part of a complete system of transportation. So we think it's great that ODOT focuses on their roadways. Fabulous. We need 101. We need Highway 6. We would like them to be even better than they are, obviously, but really making sure that the Transportation Commission understands the importance of Miami Foley Road, which is a county road, that we're responsible for, and how that plays into the larger transportation system, particularly with everybody using their phones when they visit here to figure out where to go. And more and more and more Google Maps and other mapping programs are sending people off of the highways onto our county roads. So the amount of wear and tear is only getting greater. So there's going to be a lot of work done in that coming session, and we'll be inviting people to get involved and testify in Salem for the importance of funding to counties through that package.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
please.
I received a request from County Roads Advisory Committee member Gus Meyer yesterday asking me to read some comments into the record following Director Lady's presentation. This fine presentation shows the determination of our Public Works Department to improve Tillamook County livability, servicing community, tourism, recreational, industrial, and commercial transportation. Geomorphic and hydrologic forces compound this servicing as clearly shown herein in the presentation. It should be shown that tourism dollars play a major role in these fine accomplishments. Compound nature's forces with Tillamook County's outaged roads and their facilities. Chris Lady has pictorially shown what can be done.
Thank you. And thanks, Mr. Meyer, for your comments. Okay. Well, Chris, you have the next several items on the agenda, so we will move on to item 6, which is consideration of a permanent drainage easement from Tillamook Bay Community College to provide stormwater drainage facilities over and across a parcel of land located at Township 1 South, Range 9 West, Section 29.
So item, if I could share my screen again, that would be fabulous. So December 2015 event had our damage done towards the Kilchis House, which is now it's now housing that's going to take place through the counseling center. In order to build this, we've had some environmental concerns. We've finally getting close to actually getting something on the ground. This project takes water from a variety of locations. Community College, we will be putting a storm drain line tying water off of Maroff Loop towards the fairgrounds, and that fairground water ends up all the way down to Highway 6. So item number 6, we get an easement from them, and item number 7 is they get an easement from us to help out with their storm drainage as they go through the design of their new building. So items 6 and 7 are directly related to each other.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Sure. No, this is really exciting. We keep talking about when will we finish the 2015 storm work, and this is a piece of that 2015 storm work. This is really trying to fix something that has just gone really wrong in that neighborhood through development. So the Kilchis House was the first building that was built right there off Maroff Loop of those residential facilities. And when it was built, it was fine. There was no flooding in the parking lot, no flooding in the building. It was, it was engineered properly. And as additional building has happened in that neighborhood, we have stormwater issues there, where now the Kilchis House in 2015 actively flooded with 6 inches of water inside the building. It was at that time assisted living, so it was just a terrifying moment for a lot of people. So this project has been underway to try to solve that for that neighborhood, not only for the Kilchis House facility, but for broader flooding in that area, because the geologic and hydrologic studies that were done, the thing that most struck me is when they looked at it, they said, originally before any development happened here, the drainage for this area actually did go north. So it's my understanding it's a return to an original drainage pattern, because as development happened, that drainage was pushed to the south and pushed down toward Holden Creek through all of that canal sort of system that was built. So it's hopefully going to return something to as it was before we got there, and most importantly, to make sure that we are no longer flooding in that neighborhood.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I certainly support both these items, and I think I would just mention that whole part of Tillamook County, meaning Third Street and the fairgrounds, the college, there's going to be some significant changes there over the next 2 or 3 years, not the least of which is the nursing building at the college, which then is changing the entrance over off Brookfield, which then has some effect on the drainage that we're talking about today. There'll also be softball fields and baseball fields going into the open lots that are now used for parking, and that's about all they're used for. So that will become multi-purpose as well. And then, as many of you know, the county is actually looking at a structure near the fairgrounds to, if we can acquire it and take it forward, that we'd relocate the courts and the district attorney and perhaps some other folks. And so there's a great deal of, I would call it substantial upgrading and improvements in the fairgrounds college area. This is certainly part of it. So I think there are good things to come in that part of our county for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad we're moving forward with this. A lot of people have been eagerly awaiting the solution. And a lot of us remember vividly 2015 and the flooding of the Kelchis House and how really traumatic that was, particularly for the residents of it. And now that property is going to be used for residences again, and so we want to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. And the timing is perfect to coincide with the building of the new college healthcare education building. So I'm supportive of both items and really glad that that we're moving forward on them. So I will read into the record item 7, then we'll take 6 and 7, but we'll need to take them separately. 7 is consideration of a permanent drainage easement to Tillamook Bay Community College to provide stormwater drainage over and across a parcel of land located at Township 1S, Range 9W, Section 29. So now we are ready for a motion on item 6.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a permanent drainage easement from Tillamook Bay Community College to provide storm water drainage facilities over and across a parcel of land located at Township 1S, Range 9W, Section 29, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. And now item 7.
In consideration of a permanent drainage easement to Tillamook Bay Community College to provide stormwater drainage over and across a parcel of land located at Township 1S, Range 9W, Section 29, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Chris, you also have item 8, consideration of modification number 1 to professional services agreement number 6441 with Haley and Aldrich, Inc. for geotechnical engineering services for various sites.
So we tried not to just be reactive, but also proactive. So Haley Aldrich, we had them take a look at 6 different sites throughout the county that were known issues. And we wanted to make sure that we had a game plan moving forward, try to catch these things before they fail, or at least if they do fail, we have a plan that we can go out there and rapidly work on these things. Beauty of working in a county is we're very quick to pivot, and we don't carry the heavy bureaucracy of the state. We don't necessarily carry the fine political issues that are often arise in cities, so counties are great to work for. Haley Aldrich was originally scheduled to do that. We pivoted them. They responded, and they did worked on the design for the Sand Lake Road slide project. So that we reprioritized their work for that, and this is to finish up their work. They're almost done with it, and we said, stop, shift, work on Sand Lake, okay, shift back. So all this does is shift their contract agreement term from March 31st through June 30th. Give them a little bit more time to finish up their reports.
Terrific. Questions, comments?
No, pretty clear to me, thank you.
Yeah, same here.
Likewise. All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 1 to professional services agreement number 6441 with Haley and Aldrich, Inc. for geotechnical engineering services for various sites, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Item 9 is consideration of a letter of support to the United States Department of Energy for Pacific Corp's W2R2 project and grant application for funding through the United States Department of Energy Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnership, GRIP, program. With us, we have Casey Fagan, Engineering Manager from the Tillamook Peoples Utility District. We also have Joanna. Would you like to come up? I'm good. Okay. Well, good morning and welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you all. The Tillamook Peoples Utility District is asking for your support in helping Pacific Core build better resiliency on the Sugarloaf line specifically. This line, when it goes out, about a third of our customers are out of power, sometimes for 8, 10, 12 hours. The economic impacts are huge for all those small businesses up there. Not only does it impact Tillamook County, but up to the north, all the way to Astoria. What we've been working with Pacific Core since the 80s, I found a memo going back that far, is to take some equipment they have and automate it so they can see what's going on remotely, operate things remotely, and speed up restoration times. Even it'll help them identify where the issue is. Right now, there's about 80 miles of exposure, and generally they can get it down to probably about a 20-mile section. Then they have to mobilize. So this project will help speed that process up, and depending on where the outage is, it could be minutes to less than an hour to restore parts of Tillamook or all of Tillamook County.
Thank you. I know from being the liaison to emergency management and involved in the public information officer work during emergencies that Pacific Corps' response time is considerably slower than PUD's. And so, you know, we can count on PUD to respond to things immediately and quickly in most cases, but Pacific Corps is slower. And so I'm encouraged that this could help them build their system in order to be more responsive for Tillamook County citizens and businesses. So for that reason, I support it.
And in Tillamook County, they're not building new lines or disturbing new grounds. It's specifically replacing equipment with manual operated, with motor operated type stuff.
Commissioners?
Yeah, and I agree. You know, having power to our residents is vital. Having been responsible for the Nehalem Bay House for many years up in North County, and having had many, many outages that went on for hours and hours that left our very vulnerable our residents in the dark, having to be pulled all out into common areas where there was heat. It's just vital. You know, oxygen machines that require power. You know, we had a generator that generated a portion of the building, so there was immediate movement of residents to get everybody safe. It's just not okay when there's a better way to do it. So I'm excited to hear that there's a better way to do it, to shorten those outages for our businesses, for our vulnerable residents, for everyone that lives on and is powered by that line. So I am definitely in support of improving that equipment just to make that response time quicker. That's valuable.
Thank you. Well, I'll start off by saying, first, I appreciate what Ms. Bailey said this morning here in person, as well as in written material about possibly some of the things that go on behind this. I also, as many of you know, I sat on the PUD board for 15 years, and I'm really quite familiar with that particular line, and it's a transmission line as compared with a distribution line. And the difference is the transmission lines conduct electricity from the source, meaning generation, in our case, in nearly every case, it would be a dam on the Columbia River system, and it's spread all across the Northwest. Some years ago, I think that line, my understanding was about the same as a number of others. And then a company called Berkshire Hathaway, which is the principal stockholder in that is Warren Buffett, acquired PacifiCorp. And I guess I would just say for the record, and I got clearance from council, my daughter happens to work for PacifiCorp, but she does not run the corporation, so I can keep talking if that's okay with council. The line that we're talking about has failed on a number of occasions, and it doesn't just affect 200 here or 65 over there. It affects thousands of people when it goes down. And what I became aware of as a board member of PUD was their response time was significantly longer. Sometimes instead of being like PUD that often can service a down line in a matter of 2 or 3 hours, this one would take the better part of a day. And part of the reason was the personnel had to come from out of the area. They had a different method of notifying where there were outages and a variety of technical issues. And as my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this will be at least a significant step forward that they will have a better response system, both to be notified and then to actually dispatch people to fix it. And since it affects literally thousands of people here in Tillamook County, I certainly would support that, notwithstanding some of the downsides that may be out there, as Ms. Bailey points out, and others. So, but I think the greater good is to get something going that will solve a longstanding problem here in Tillamook County with our grid. So have I missed anything, Casey, on that?
No, you've summarized it very well.
Thank you. So I too support this. It just, there's too much at stake, and there's not a home or a property, an individual in Tillamook County who doesn't depend on reliable electricity, just for a whole reason, a batch of reasons, including heat and cooling and water, drinking water and everything else.
Thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a letter of support to the United States Department of Energy for PacifiCorp's W2R2 project and grant application for funding through the United States Department of Energy Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnership, GRIP, program, I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Casey. Thanks for being with us in person, and you too, Joanna.
All right, thank you very much.
Moving on to item 10, consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of a member to the 4-H and Extension Service Budget Committee. We have with us Tillamook County Treasurer Sean Blanchard. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Bell. Good morning, Commissioners. So the 4-H and Extension Service has an opening on their Budget Committee. Sarah Ostermiller has applied for that position. She was previously on there, then became a part-time employee of the Master Gardener Program, and now she's no longer a part-time employee, and she's willing to be reappointed to the 4-H Budget Committee.
I think that's terrific. And we approved her on the Budget Committee previously, and I'm glad to have her back, and I'm grateful that she's willing to serve.
Yes.
Agreed. And I think some people may be wondering why we appoint to the 4-H Budget Committee. I know it was a question for me when I started as a commissioner, but we actually sit as their Budget Committee. The three commissioners, along with, I believe, 3 lay people, just as on our committee, they receive tax funding. So they are part of the tax program, and so it falls underneath the county, and there is a relationship that maybe you can describe a little bit more, Sean.
I work with Christy Dixon. She is the new office manager over there, and Wiley Thompson on their budget. I'm their budget officer. They do most of the work. I just make sure it lines up with all the dates that are due and aligns with state laws.
Perfect. So as a governmental entity themselves, there's a lot of similarities, and of course, we're inextricably tied. So it is another function of the county to serve as their budget committee.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. I would support this, if only for the reason this individual was on before, and there was no reason to fire her, so to speak, which wouldn't happen. She did a good job, and then the circumstances changed. She's back again, so I'm certainly behind reappointing and keeping her expertise in the loop.
Okay, terrific.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of order number 24-011 and for H/extension number 24-001, in the matter of appointment of a member to the 4-H and Extension Service District Budget Committee, I would move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Excuse me. All right, item 11, consideration of a prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Farnham Electric Construction for the Tillamook County Fairgrounds Electrical Service Upgrades Project. And I believe we have John Abel with us remotely. John?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Good morning, yes. Yeah, will you please introduce yourself for the listening audience?
Yes, my name is John Abel. I'm with Cornerstone Management Group, the owner's representative, project manager, helping out on the Tillamook Fair Electrical Service Upgrades Project. We came before you on the February 21st meeting to discuss the bid results for the electrical upgrades. And so we are just following up now with, we actually have the contract ready to go to Farnham Electric, worked with Rachel Haggerty and Isabel at the county to get that prepared. And so just bringing it before you for approval. And the contract is per all the bids and specifications that were included with the bid. And we've worked on a schedule, of course, coordinated with Cammie, who could not be here today as she's out. But we have a schedule that works around the fair. That's going to be happening, and all the kind of pre-work and post-work that they have to prepare and put the fair, I guess, back in order. So we're going to start in April and get going on all the undergrounding and all that work coordinated with the PUD, and then we will be completing the work in the fall. So really just looking for approval on this contract with Farnham Electric.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. I am familiar with this, being the liaison to the Fair Board, and we have discussed this, the Fair Board did rather, and I listened. And as I mentioned earlier this morning, this is part of a lot of changes and improvements in the vicinity of the college and the fairgrounds. And I think this one's been a long time coming, and there are a number of electrical deficiencies at the fairgrounds that need some attention. And I think this is a start to get that brought up not only to full code, but full and better access than what's been there now. And there's a lot of need for electricity in the fair, as PUD and these people could tell you, simply because there's a lot of food preparation, there's lighting, there's all kinds of things that go on in the system that's there now, and I understand have been put together over a period of years, one or two at a time, sort of cobbled together. And while it's safe and operable, it's far from optimum. So this is a good step forward.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Yeah, I agree. This is exciting. I know that we, a couple of years ago, started putting some money on an annual basis from TLT toward the fairgrounds so that they could plan for these longer-term, bigger projects, because it was just sort of this question each year if there would be, additional project funding for them. So I think this is part of the fruition of that work, which is exciting to see that these longer-term planned for upgrades per their long-term plan are coming to fruition.
I agree. As the previous liaison to the fair, I have been privy to this plan for some time, and it's very exciting. It's the underground work that needs to happen before the above ground work can happen. And for folks who are watching who may be wondering, why are the commissioners involved with this? It's because the county owns the property and the buildings. So it is our responsibility to maintain them and to improve them. And the fair board operates the fair. So it's an interesting partnership. It's a very successful, dynamic partnership. We don't operate the fair board operates the fair. So I'm fully supportive and excited that this is moving forward. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of a prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Farnham Electric Construction for the Tillamook County Fairgrounds Electrical Service Upgrades Project, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks for being with us, John.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item 12 is consideration of a personnel requisition for a regular full-time parks laborer custodian for the Parks Department. And Rachel is going to lead this for us.
Good morning, Commissioners. We are on the home stretch of our reconstruction project at the Cape Kiwanda parking lot as part of the Kiwanda Corridor project. As we have gone through the engineering design and construction over the last 2 years, we've been developing an operations and maintenance manual. Last fall, I met with park staff and the Public Works Director to develop a plan for how staff, whoever that might be, would take care of the lot. So the restrooms are going to be larger, nicer, more amenities. There will also be garbage receptacles and recycling throughout the parking lot that will need to be managed and put into a larger bin. So there's just going to be a lot more labor needed to take care of the new amenities. Where that conversation with staff landed was we need one new full-time person to complement what the park staff are already doing to provide coverage all week. So before you today is a new position that is not in this fiscal year's budget, so that's why it's coming before you today, but it is in my 24-25 budget request that has been submitted to the treasurer that is going to be going through the budget process this spring. The plan is to start the recruitment now to get someone on board by the time the lot is operational and the restrooms are open in July is our target. And so expenses for this new position won't occur, the goal is, until after the beginning of the fiscal year. So it is ready for consideration.
Thank you. Well, as the liaison to parks and the current interim parks director, I can respond to this and say that it may seem surprising to some folks that we'll need a full-time janitor laborer for one parking lot. But if you think that, you've never been to the Cape Kiwanda parking lot in July, for example. So, and I've talked to folks, to parks employees who've done that work before, and they said that it's just constant, that cleaning the restroom, restocking the restroom, managing the garbage, that it's just constant. So, and then if there are, if time provides, if there's slower time, then that person will also be able to go to the PC turnaround and go to the PC boat launch or, maybe Mug Park or whatever. So we need somebody concentrated in Pacific City. And I'm hopeful we may already have someone interested in the job, so that's exciting. Yeah. So I'm fully supportive of this, and just in case anyone's wondering, it is the parking day use parking fee funds that will pay for this position. So the funds that are generated in that parking lot will pay for the person who's working in the parking lot, which is ideal.
Thank you for that clarification. There's no general fund supporting this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Commissioners?
Thank you. Well, as someone who lives in Pacific City and goes by there frequently, I fully support this, and you're quite right, Commissioner, from starting here with spring break about now on through Labor Day and beyond. There are people in that parking lot daily, and well, not today because it's closed. But when it opens, there will be people there every day, almost year-round. Even in poor weather, they come and they walk on the beach, all bundled up, and no doubt they use the restroom facilities. But as Chair pointed out, there's also some other need at the boat ramp and as well. We call it the boat ramp, which is off Sunset. People fish there year-round. There's also a sizable number of people who have horse trailers and ride their horses up and down the beach and elsewhere, and they need some servicing as well. So I think this is nothing but a smart move to improve the sanitation and the cleanliness of the area. And as was pointed out, this is not a burden on the general fund. It's paid for by the people who use that facility. So I certainly support.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, I agree with everything my colleagues have said. You know, Parks is completely funded through the work that they do. The parking fee being a part of that, none of it's general fund. And people say, well, why are you putting all this effort in Pacific City? Because Pacific City is not a city. Pacific City is an unincorporated community of the county. Therefore, we are the government for that particular urbanized area. And this is a huge need to keep our trash under control, make sure our restrooms are clean and appropriate and prepared for our visitors. And I think this is a great position that we need and absolutely should add.
Thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of a personnel requisition for a regular full-time parks laborer custodian for the Parks Department, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Rachel has the next couple of items. Item 13 is consideration of an amendment to a conservation easement with the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board. Rachel.
After 17 years of planning, in 2017, the county and its partners completed the construction of the Southern Flow Corridor Landowner Preferred Alternative Project, which was a dual-purpose wetland restoration and flood mitigation project. Some of the property needed to make the project happen some property needed to be acquired, and the funding used to acquire most of that property was from the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board. The Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board then required a conservation easement over that property, which totals 504 acres of the 688-acre project area. In November last year, the Board of Commissioners approved Tillamook People's Utility District's proposal to have their proposed Netar's Oceanside transmission line traverse the southern portion of the Southern Flow Corridor project area, a small area that will just be aerial lines. There's no poles slated to go in the project area. So because of that, OWEB is requiring an amendment to Tillamook County's conservation easement because as currently recorded, the conservation easement does not allow for that type of infrastructure. So OWEB is supportive. There's been a lot of negotiations between the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board and PUD, and this document before you today amends the conservation easement to allow for Tillamook County and ultimately PUD to put the transmission line through the Southern Flow Corridor project area. There's going to be forthcoming easements, et cetera, that we're getting into next. It's a long process that we've been talking about for quite some time, and this is another step in that process.
Terrific. Thank you. Commissioners?
Well, thank you. I am in support of this as well. As it sounds as almost as if it's cleaning up some paperwork, but as was pointed out, it's been going on for many years, and I'm very, very familiar with the Oceanside Transmission Project and what it's taken to get it there. And I guess I'd point out for the record, it's not yet built and energized. There's still some negotiations and some an issue or two there, but this brings it a step closer, and so we certainly would support it. And I'd say the same thing I've said at a number of PUD meetings. There are nearly 2,100 people at the other end of this transmission line that need some redundancy and service protection, the same as the rest of Tillamook County. They've been isolated all these years, and when they have an outage, there's no way to backfeed, and this project will relieve that, and the people who depend on electricity, which is everyone down there, including 60-some businesses, this is a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really harkens back to the conversation we already had this morning relating to the lines up north. We need to keep people powered up. That is one of the just main functions that needs to happen. Everyone should have electricity, they should have water, they should have sewer, we should have broadband, these basic infrastructural pieces. So it needs to happen.
I agree. I'm also supportive, and I think it's a good use of the property. The Southern Flow Corridor project is, people don't live on it, and they're not doing business on it. It's a good dual use of the property, so I'm fully supportive.
Okay.
We're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of an amendment to the conservation easement with the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Rachel. Item 14 is consideration of a lease agreement with the Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless for approximately 100 square feet of ground space located at 13990 Wilson River Highway in Tillamook. Rachel Haggerty,
If I could take this one and the next one together?
please. The next is consideration of a lease agreement with the Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless for approximately 100 square feet of ground located at 26476 Wilson River Highway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Verizon has been working with several landowners along Highway 6 to install cell towers to address the coverage gap that we have over Highway 6. They have reached out to us regarding two properties that the county owns. One is Ming Creek, which is the first address, and the second is Fall Creek, which is the second address. Ming Creek is between milepost 6 and 7, and Fall Creek is between milepost 13 and 14. The provisions in these agreements are identical. The only difference is the location. We are looking at a 100 square foot ground lease for the installation of an 80-foot monopole to provide for their cell infrastructure. This is a non-exclusive lease with an initial term of 10 years. There's an annual rent of $2,400, and it will be payable to the county upon execution. This has been executed by Verizon. The second year and every year thereafter, the rent will increase 102% off of the prior year. The county is receiving a one-time lump administration payment of $1,500 for each lease. The agreement will automatically renew one time in an additional 5-year term. And as we are working on our countywide public safety radio communication system upgrade, we have requested that Verizon include in here the ability to co-locate if we need. That option is not described in our radio system upgrade at this point because this wasn't in that concept, which we've had for a couple of years now. But as we move into the design and engineering of the radio system, if we need to co-locate, the option is available to us. With that, these are ready for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only downside I see to this, and there really is none, but I suppose if somebody ran into a pole and hurt himself, that would be a downside. But the upside is part of a much, much larger picture, which is to bring cell service all the way up Highway 6, Wilson River Highway, and over the summit and down into Washington County as well. And as many of you heard us talk before, and my predecessor certainly was involved, Commissioner Yamamoto. There's been an effort to bring, to close about a 25-mile gap where there is no cell service and certain other provisions on that stretch of highway, which is relatively heavily traveled. So this is a good start. There also, if all goes well, there'll be another number of cell towers, maybe as many as 8 or 9, clear up to the summit and down the Washington County side. And if you've driven Highway 6 lately, and most people have, you'll see stub outs, you'll see all the colored conduit that's coming out of the ground. That will contain fiber at some point in the next year or two, and begin to transmit not only internet from Amazon and others that have come ashore from overseas activity, but enhance the ability to do cell service. So this is a part of that. It's another company, Verizon, but I think it's much larger picture, including the transmission of internet, and as Rachel pointed out, the expansion or improvement of a radio system across Tillamook County, which is upwards of 20-plus years old and has a number of failures going on from time to time, and this is an important first step. So this is, for me, just a no-brainer. This is something that needs to be done, and I only wish it could happen more quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think Doug laid it out really well. This is, an amazing moment with the actual ability to see a future with cellular coverage on Highway 6. So this is the piece that we can play, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
As am I. Yeah, it's a huge safety issue, as my fellow commissioners have mentioned, and And it's, regularly we hear stories about, I had an accident on Highway 6, but there's no cell service. That happens all the time. So this is very encouraging, and I thank Rachel for her work on this. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of a lease agreement with Cellco Partnership DBA Verizon Wireless for approximately 100 square feet of ground space located at 13990 Wilson River Highway, Tillamook, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. And 15?
Madam Chair, in consideration of a lease agreement with Cellco Partnership DBA Verizon Wireless for approximately 100 square feet of ground space located at 26476 Wilson River Highway, Tillamook, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, well, we have 2 executive sessions scheduled for today, and I'll ask Sarah if our guest is here yet for one of them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. He is here, but he is in another meeting until 10:30.
Okay. Well, we have 2. I don't know that 10 minutes is enough to finish the other executive session, but what is your pleasure? Would you like to start the other one? Or take a break for 10 minutes and start with Sarah's item?
Sarah, if I'm not mistaken, our guest is going to be here through the afternoon anyway, so if he needs to wait for us, that's not going to impact him. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It would give me a chance to debrief with him in the hall.
Perfect.
Okay.
If you would like to do the first one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
do we need a break before we
Just
jump
a
into
short one.
that?
5 minutes
Okay.
would be more than enough, just enough to change.
And Mary Faith, the meetings will be held under 192.660(2)A. That's to consider the employment of a staff member or a public employee, and 2A, which is the consultant counsel concern.
Thank you very much. So we will recess this meeting for 5 minutes at 10:18, come back at 10:23, and when we come back, we'll be in executive session. All right. Thank you. Thanks for being here, you guys. All right.
Yeah, and thank you for allowing that. I'm sorry to come in like that. I hate to be late. You were fine. Yeah, I'll make sure I sign all your everything. Thank you. Sorry, for executive out of here for today. You're fine.
Will you be in the office next week? I've got an RFP I'm working on, and I'm wondering if you could give me some perspective before I get too far along.
Another good job. Yeah, well, we appreciate what you do. I appreciate that. And I can get people to, I can direct people to. Yeah, it's just so helpful, every state will work at this time, and it's really hard to attend. So, really appreciate your, as a speaker.
Very good, I'm glad you use
So,
on it now.
yeah, no, I know, it's a hard job.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll make another page.
Okay.
I don't know how to say it, scratching it, so. And then, so we'll just do whatever, I told you, so I'll be here. And then we'll do another second page.
Bye. You have a good day.
I'm probably.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to.
Nope, it's not union related.
We have a budget in here. Rachel, will we have anybody online for this?
I don't think so. Do you know of anybody participating?
Good morning, Jody.
Good morning.
When I come into HR and I walk up the stairs and I finally get in there, they're like, well, when you log in online, you're not out of breath. And I was like, I only have one flight of stairs to run up to make my meeting, not two.
I have to be careful on these stairs because they're slippery. And I tend to like, I'm gonna run up the stairs and then I, take a nosedive and you're like, did anybody see that? I hope nobody saw that.
I've hit that age group where practical shoes have become really, really important, and especially in this building.
Yeah, for sure. You don't wanna hit these floors when they're wet.
I have a closet full of beautiful shoes. That's amazing.
Sonoma County is not, it's just not good for beautiful shoes with the rain and the mud puddles and everything we have, you know? I used to really like them. I like looking at them on other people.
I know, I admire Rachel. She can make it a whole day in it.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and I used to really like them, and I used to have a bunch of them. At about 40, like I had back pain, you know, I started to have all the aging-related complaints, bunions, back pain, and I thought, okay, I guess I passed it. Maybe, well, who I totally admired. I totally admired that. Yes.
My daughter started borrowing them, and she's like, I'm gonna wear them to school. And I'm like, well, why don't you just throw an extra pair in your backpack just in case? And then she always comes home in the extra pair. And I was like, okay, it's not just me.
Being in executive session, Bill's already given us the ORS. This is to discuss the employment of a parks director. So Jody, do you want to do this?
I'm happy to get started. You know, Bill might not be.
Have somebody online?
No, I have an issue with my live stream.